but I will be able to. Okay, I will be able to come closer though, right? I won't see my notes. Good evening, everyone. We're just setting up the camera, so give it a moment. Wonderful. I'd like to welcome you all this evening to our Monday night workshop in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's nice and warm here. So I'm okay if I'm this close. Excellent. So just want to thank you all for everyone online and everyone else who showed up here in our office, office. I'm a little jet lagged. Mark and I were just talking about this. We had a quick little weekend, and today I feel my age. I am tired. So wanted to just take a brief moment and mention that I have not published any of the dates yet because we've got a little bit of a hiccup in the registration process. So once we get that taken care of, then I'll go ahead and publish what the dates are for next year for the Omega-1, Omega-2s, and of course we are having an Omega-4. We've got that already scheduled. So just hang tight for that. I know I've received a couple of messages for people who've been asking me, and we're just working on the registration process. I will keep you updated on that. So this evening, I really struggled throughout the whole day today trying to figure out what I was going to write. What my original plan topic just didn't feel right, and plus thinking that I'm jet lagged, I struggled a great deal trying to figure out the exact concept I wanted to communicate, especially with recent events. I don't want to bring everyone down, but I wanted to be able to talk about it, not just because of the violence, but how it affects us. And so the concept I came up with, the title, A Mind Interrupted, how our mind is interrupted when events like that occur. We often think about tragedy and where things were. I remember I grew up and the question was, where were you when JFK was shot? And our parents, we'd have to ask our parents where they were when JFK was shot and what was going on. And almost everybody remembered. My aunts and uncles, my grandparents and my parents knew where they were. And then of course, if you ask anyone today, where were you for 9/11? Almost everybody remembers where they were when 9/11 happened. And I'm certain for D-Day, Pearl Harbor attacks, we can look and think about all the tragic that occurred and where we were. Something about it cements it in our mind. And because we were interrupted, here we are doing what we're doing and all of a sudden, boom, news, something is occurring. So that's where I started thinking about a mind being interrupted. What? Oh, okay. He just gave me a goofy look. Okay. I'm not really invested in what he thinks. Anyway, so I was thinking about the last 3 months. If we were to look about the last 3 months of what's happened with us or worldwide, I just did a quick little rundown of things that I could remember, and I'm certain there's more, but here's the things I was thinking of. Like the first major one was the Hurricane Harvey. August 17th, Hurricane Harvey hits. And the places that were prepared for it didn't really get devastated, but then Houston, which wasn't truly prepared for it, devastated, and they're still dealing with it. And from what I understand, it'll be a few years before that actually gets handled, people back in their homes and whatnot. So that was Hurricane Harvey on August 17th. Then August 30th, we had Hurricane Irma come through, which did more damage in the Caribbean, and then it went up the coast of Florida. And then, of course, on August 31st, there was the chemical explosion outside of Houston, where people had to leave their homes because this huge explosion happened from the chemical with the release, something to do with the water from Hurricane Harvey. And then we could slip in the 2 Mexico earthquakes that occurred. That was August 9th and August 24th were the 2 earthquakes that occur, but there was Hurricane Maria that was in between that. So you have an earthquake, Hurricane Maria, which devastates Puerto Rico, and then Mexico had another earthquake. And then we had the beginning of of October was the Las Vegas shooting massacre. And then, of course, the wildfires all through October, pretty much all through October. We had the wildfires. There was 12 very large wildfires that burned California. And then, of course, last week, October 31st, the man who drove the van into the bike path in New York, killing several people, 8 people, I believe, died there. And then, of course, last night or yesterday was the Texas shooting in the church. And on that one, the youngest one is 18 months old. So when we hear tragic stories like that, it's very difficult not to be wrapped up or moved or emotionally upset or judgmental or reactive. And, you know, with social media today, everybody's got an opinion, so everyone's blogging away and contacting. And then, of course, there's also the, what did they know? What did they say? And why did he do this? And looking for reason, trying to figure out, make sense of what happens. I can understand that. And of course, for preparation, my husband and I were talking about when the van in France, Nice in France, you know, take away guns and somebody gets a van and just runs people over. Even in England, they did that. And of course, now we have in New York City. So it's the choice of weapon, okay, we can ban, but people are going to find another way. They're going to find another reason or a way to express themselves. So one of the things I was thinking about is the rationalization or the lack of rationalization that occurs. Misconstrued conceptions. I see one thing and I assume another. And then, of course, you know, when you do the blog, I keep wanting to call it blogging, Facebooking or tweeting or Instagram, whatever it is that you do, social media, that is the constant. You don't really know the flavor of what someone's saying. I could be mentioning something and you don't know if I'm angry by saying it. So it can be taken incorrectly. I thought this morning, I was thinking about the Sandy Hook tragedy, which is the one that really gets to me the most. These children that are dying. Children that are dying, that were killed, these children that were killed by a gentleman with a gun. And we can look at this, you know, we say, oh, he was upset, he was mentally unstable, angry at his mother that she loved the children more than she loved him. She was going to put him away in a psychiatric ward. So we can understand, not condone, but we can understand why he shot his mother, angry with her. That was a threat. Totally get it. We can understand going to the school and killing the children. Understand. Not truly, at least for me, I haven't truly gotten the understanding here, but I can understand it. They were a threat. They took his mother's love. But then he went and shot other people that didn't have anything to do with anything. So that I don't understand. Did he just like the thirst of blood and wanted to feel important or empowered? And of course, there's always the age-old controversial topic of video games and violence and all the violence that's on TV now as opposed to when I was growing up. I remember I went to school for broadcasting. I have a broadcasting major. And, you know, one of the first things we learned was the 7 words you're not allowed to say on TV. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't hear almost all 7 because of cable and whatnot, and Netflix and everyone else having their own. We have the freedom to do whatever they want. I have seen what I would consider porn, and it's right on TV. Anybody can just watch it, where I'm shocked. So there's so much of that filtering out into society. And then, of course, the idea of being the one who had I did the biggest shooting, or, you know, I don't know what that's about, but apparently that means something to someone, that they killed the most people. I guess it's kind of like in a game, you get rewarded if you kill the most zombies. So again, I don't know. I don't play those violent games, and I'm not wanting to be judgmental, but I do know, I'm aware there's more violence accessible, at least for me, the way I'm thinking, than it was when I was a kid. We didn't really have as much, I don't remember seeing so much violence as a child as I do today. And then I think of the kids who were so saturated by social media and the violent video games and the violence on TV, like they've almost become insensitive. And then add on top of tragedy, hurricanes, earthquakes, mass shootings, running people over in cars, bombings. It's almost like it's the next, like I was just thinking, last Monday night workshop was right after the Las Vegas shooting. So I stopped a moment and said a prayer for, and here I am again, 1 month later, another mass shooting. It's like it's another thing. Oh, yep, here's the next event. And the other thing that I feel dismayed about is because all of these things are occurring over like a short period of time, we forget the suffering of someone that experienced tragedy 90 days ago. That's 3 months. That's it. Just 3 months. It's no longer newsworthy. No one's paying attention anymore because we're on to the next topic, the next tragedy, the next event. I feel sad about that, how quickly we could easily move on and recognize people are still suffering, or not recognize people are suffering. Now, of course, I'm speaking from Arizona. In Arizona, we don't have tragedies. We didn't have an earthquake. We haven't had a mass shooting. There weren't any fires or tornadoes or hurricanes. So it's easy for me to be detached. I see it on the news and I read it on the news. I could still feel affected, but it's not an immediate thing. I don't know how I would feel if I was living in Houston and my house was flooded and everything that I had is moldy and I can't live in it and I'm living in a temporary housing situation. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in Puerto Rico, where toothpicks is pretty much what it was described. Everyone's houses would just look like toothpicks, gone, devastated. So I suppose I would have a different perspective if I was experiencing the tragedy. I was having a conversation and this person was saying how they knew someone that was a teacher, and the teacher had reported an incident of child abuse. And this little girl had come to school and she was black and blue on her arms and legs and whatnot, and so they had to call in. And so this person I was having a conversation with said, oh, I can't imagine what it'd be like to go to school and you're all black and blue and, you know, how can a mother make you do that? And I was sitting there thinking, well, obviously they don't know, but I do know. And so the fact that I understand what it's like to be approached by a teacher, what it's like to, like the first teacher that ever approached me, I consider them bad, evil, because they're going to find out and I'm going to get in more trouble, when actually they were the good people and I perceive them differently. But I've had a number of those experiences. And what I found myself, as this person was telling me the story, not that I wasn't empathetic, but I really felt detached. Like, yeah, so, like, move on. I've done it. I know it. Yeah, I know what it's like. And it didn't feel like it was callous, but I really felt something didn't feel right to me. Like I felt like I should have been more empathetic, or for them it was something new and I could have had compassion for them, but I didn't. I was like, yeah, I've already done this. And that made me think, I wonder if that's what's happening with our next generation. Oh yeah, I know about mass shooting. Oh yeah, I know about hurricanes. Oh yeah, I know about. So I wonder if that's what's happening, where we get, again, the word is desensitive, but I'm not quite sure that's the accurate word, but it happens so much, we're like, okay. Now, for me, it's not a, okay, no big deal. It's a, okay, now what? What do I do? How do I fix it? What do I move on? Some people might be frozen when it happens. They might think, I don't know what to do. And then this could also be very beneficial. They ask for help, and then organizations show up and help assist people. As a matter of fact, I found this in the bathroom. I was in the bathroom just earlier, and they have little flyers about the Sojourn Center. I know I never say this correctly, but the Sojourn Center. And this is an organization in Arizona. At least I believe it's in Arizona. It's an Arizona organization that helps domestic violence. So it's a place that you can go to if you're running from domestic violence. You bring your family. They support you short-term, shelter. There's actually something they have called a lay legal advocacy, so they can actually help you get court orders and protections. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is I remember when I first came to Arizona, this is one of the places that I started donating to. I would donate clothes and then towels and, beauty supplies, because you've got women who just left and they may not have anything, or diapers and stuff. So it's a place that comes out. And this is as a result of the trauma and the drama that people endure. So places like this show up in times of tragedy. And then, of course, we always hear the stories of individuals, heroes, that emerge. The Las Vegas shooting. And there are so many stories of husbands protecting their wives, brothers protecting their sisters, and strangers jumping in to protect people, carrying people off the field, even though fire is going. The gunfire is going. So, of course, we have moments to be heroic, but I particularly wouldn't like to live in a violent just to be heroic. I'm hoping there's other ways that we can be heroic. So the question I would have is, what is it that we do? How can we make sure that this doesn't affect us? It doesn't make us depressed. It doesn't make us shelter in our house, shelter in place. We don't want to go anywhere, because you never know. I like to be able to present an idea that there are things that we can do. Of course, donating is a big thing. I don't want to say funny, but every time I would go to the store, is like, what's this week's donation? You want to donate $1 to the relief of da-da-da-da-da. So Harvey relief, hurricane relief, Puerto Rico relief, earthquake relief. It was just constant. I kind of chuckle when you show up, and it's like, I wonder, is it just like a line you erase and just write the next one in? And I'm not meaning to be funny. I just feel there's always another thing to be giving the money to, and that's not a bad thing. Giving money is very beneficial as well, and any supplies and stuff, of course. But there has to be other things that I can do as a human being. First of all, things that I can do, as well as how not to let it affect me. I was thinking, I recently have been listening to Oprah and Deepak. Every once in a while they do free meditations and stuff. And so they've got this other meditation. They've got this meditation called Making Every Moment Matter. And it's about time management. I haven't had the time to listen to it, which is very sad. But some of the points that they make are it's nice. I'm very grateful that I have been able to catch up on some of them. But the idea is, Oprah said, I think it was this morning, she said, thinking positive thoughts isn't the whole picture. Like, we have to be able to, I believe the word she used was evacuate or get rid of excavate the things that are negative that are in our lives as well. We can't just be positive. And that made me think about, in my office, above my desk, I have these 3 quotations, nicely graphic, whatnot, for me to always look at. One of them says, I'm surrounded by joy and beauty. Positive affirmation, I'm surrounded by joy and beauty. Make sure I remind myself to look for joy, look for beauty. Because I'm an individual that can look for things out of place more often than finding joy and beauty. So instead of looking for things that are not put in their place, or the piles, or, oh, no, let's look for joy and beauty. Look, there's a beautiful flower through the window, and, oh, there's birds flying by, and no, the crystal is making a rainbow on the wall. Like, look for joy and beauty. It actually does work. As a matter of fact, back in August, I believe the date was August 26th, I started this little book. I always do gratitude greetings, but what I do every day is I write down the things that I'm grateful for. I actually call this the search for joy, or my search for joy. So every day, I will write 1.5 pages or 2 pages of things that I'm grateful for. And some things I repeat and some things I don't, depending on the day or the events that are occurring. All of this was an attempt to increase my vibration of joy and not let outside events affect me, as well as not go for the negative thought. Like, for example, the gentleman in Texas. How do I not get angry at him? How do I not judge him? How do I not get violent or upset? He killed a child, or the pastor's daughter. I want to be able to not go to that place. So that's what this book has been helpful for. So that was August. I'm on my 3rd month, I believe, doing this, which is, I can tell it's made a difference. Even though I practice this, it's not something I do consciously, and writing it down. I think writing it down made a difference for me. So even though I have this book, And I have this little quote that says, find joy in beauty. I don't find joy in beauty every day. Then I have another quote that says, I am the author of every next moment. I actually love this quote. To remind myself, okay, something happens, how do I respond? I mean, that's really what it means, choose. Rollo May has a great quote, between every stimulus and the response, there's a pragmatic pause where I stop and choose which way to throw my weight. And in that choice, that's where my life is determined and my consciousness is determined. I just totally butchered it, but that's the idea. I choose. So I'm the author of every next moment. That means, okay, an event just occurred. How do I handle it? Do I wish to find joy, or am I going to react? Do I look for value, or do I discount immediately? Oprah said something else that I really liked, and I know I'm going to not quote this correctly, but I think she said, turn your wounds to wisdom, something along that line. So when things are injurious, how do I make them beneficial? What do I learn about it? Okay, I can understand that. And then, of course, the last thing that I have on my wall, it says, everything that happens to me is the best possible thing that can happen to me. Meaning that every moment that I am, that's the moment I'm designed for, I'm ready for. I grew up with the quote, life only handles you what you're capable of, and not going to give me something I couldn't handle. So I agree with that as well. So even though I have those 3 quotes on my wall, doesn't mean I don't react. Doesn't mean I feel sad or don't feel sad. Even though I have this book to remind me to search for the joy, I still feel affected, especially when I hear children are involved and whatnot. So my thought was, how do I search for joy when there's tragedy? How do I strive for peace when there's violence? And then how do I find love when I'm surrounded by anger? It's easy to get wrapped up into gossip. Working at my clients' offices, office gossip is the big thing. I grew up with the idea of the water cooler. Everyone goes to the water cooler and talks about everybody else. Well, now it's the break room. Everyone goes to the break room and that's what you do. Or the bathrooms. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into the bathroom and there's people talking and they see me and then they switch to speaking Spanish. And I really want to learn how to say, I can still understand you in Spanish, just to freak them out, even though I don't. I think that would be really good to do that. But it's what they do. And here's the thing. They know it's wrong. That's why they change the language. I think that's intriguing. If I know what I'm doing is not in alignment, why do I continue? Oh, let me just do it in another language and you won't be able to know that I'm gossiping about people. That makes me laugh. But anyway, gossip, very easy to get involved in. One of the questions I usually ask my clients are, when your team is gossiping, what do you do? People who are invested in being liked, I walk away. Okay. There's other people, I don't really mind. I try to spin it around and let them know here's the positive side of it. And then there are some that say, I absolutely stop it and let them know you're gossiping and this is unacceptable, that's where I would gravitate towards is this the only thing you can talk about? Is this the most productive thing you can speak about at this time? That's where I would lead them to. But not everybody has the strength or wisdom or the impact of thinking at this moment, how do I change? At this moment, how do I change it for the betterment? I was thinking about how in Omega we often say that I'm a product of my thinking. And my thoughts are derived by what I see and what I hear. If I see negativity, I'm going to think negativity, I'll become negative. I'm a reflection of my thoughts. If I see positive, I'll think positive, I'll become positive. That was the whole premise of positive thinking that was around in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s. Positive thinking. And then we had people who took it to the extreme. I am positive that I'm going to win the lottery. I am positive I will have a happy and healthy relationship. I am positive I don't have to pay my rent, but I won't be evicted. I mean, it got to be an insane, I took it way to the extreme. And when I came in to that thought form, I naturally was like, that's stupid. Why would I be positive when I'm just lying to myself? So I came in on the end when it was the extreme side. So I've never been a fan of positive thought, affirmations, positive affirmations. okay, whatever. But I've now taken a different position. I do find that positive affirmations make a difference. It changes the way I believe, or interact, as long as it's not exaggerated and I don't have to pay my mortgage, but hey, I'll still have a house. I mean, it's got to be something concrete. And as I said, most of the stuff that I have in my book are things that I truly am grateful for, and every day I find gratitude. From meeting George to Omega to the life that I have, the life I've been given, my parents, family members, beauty, nature. I mean, truly, Sedona, if you've ever been to Sedona, beautiful place. So there's things that I can find gratitude, and I do find that when I focus on that first thing in the morning, wow, what a difference. I really am walking. Doesn't matter if my son's time to get up, every parent knows that, time to get up, or honey, you missed a spot shaving. I don't care, it's fine. Okay. He walks out of the house with one mutton chop and one not. That's kind of funny. But I don't get upset about it. I would laugh. It's his face. I mean, that's okay. I don't mind. Or, when, how come they didn't call me? Hey, you don't need to be called. Best friends leave. It's fine. So, I find that's been very beneficial. So that's one thing. If I focus on the negative, I'm going to experience the negative. I have this book. This is the book that I've recommended for the month. It's Getting Into the Gap. But there's a quote here I want to read to you, which I really liked. The quote says, "Just as the pure crystal takes color from the object which is nearest to it, so does the mind. When it is cleared of thought waves, achieves sameness or identity with the object that its concentration. So, like a crystal or a glass, if you have rose-colored glasses, it tints the way we see things. So when I'm thinking, just like a crystal, and a crystal actually amplifies things. So if I'm thinking negative thoughts and I amplify them, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to feel negative. Now, I know some people have thought about the idea, if you're always thinking negative, you're going to draw negativity. What you put out to the universe is what will come back to you. And there may be some truth to that. I don't know. I've been putting out to the universe for 25 years now that I'm going to win the lottery. Hasn't happened yet. So I'm not sure what you put out actually will come back.
I thought Mark was your winning lottery.
Oh, he is. That's right. I did win the lottery when I got married. Perhaps I wasn't specific enough about financial lotteries, but thank you for that. So the idea is, if I focus on the positive, I will have a positive experience. So that's a good way to handle the tragedies. Does it mean that I put my head in the sand and not pay attention? Does it mean that I don't look at the news anymore? I would love to say yes, but unfortunately I need to stay informed. I don't need 24 hours of news. I'm certain of that. George gave us an assignment many years ago, 5 minutes. That's all you got. 5 minutes of news. First 5 minutes. And as a matter of fact, I think one of the news stations out here, the top 10 minutes, you'll get the top 10 stories. I actually like that. 10 minutes, I'm updated, I'm done. I don't need to watch anymore. So that, I listen to the news as practice, as a matter of fact. I don't listen to the news so much to be updated as to practice non-judgment, to practice compassion. Having a broadcasting degree, I struggle watching the newscasters. I watch them make mistakes, or the teleprompter's not working, or they're looking in the wrong camera. Like, that's my first thought. So it's good practice for me to find joy in the newscast. Oh, that's a beautiful dress she's wearing, or that's a very nice tie. I look for things. And then, of course, the news stories, not to be wrapped up. Hating Trump, or hating Hillary, or the wrong way drivers, which is big out here in Arizona. The wrong way drivers, not to be wrapped up into them. Just listen to them. Okay, there was a wrong way driver. I'll be more mindful of when I'm on the road. I heard that this week they're going to start cracking down on the speeding, because 75-mile speed limit is apparently a suggestion, not literal. So I guess Phoenix cops are going to cut that down, which I really appreciate, because I have a little car, and when a 18-wheeler flies by me at 80 miles an hour, that scares me tremendously. So I can't imagine what it's doing to other people. So anyway, the idea of practice. I practice. So that's what the news is for me. Not so much that I need to be updated on what's happening, more on how I can listen to a story and not react. And that's one of the things that George had mentioned early on, becoming an observer. When I remove myself and observe a situation, I'm not involved anymore. Therefore, I don't take things personal. I don't get emotionally charged as much anymore. I just observe. Okay, I'm observing. I was at a wedding this weekend, observing. I really did as much as I could to observe. I mean, there were some times that I got emotional and wrapped up. I mean, I love my niece. It was beautiful to see her. And then dancing with my husband, which we don't do often. So that was very nice to do until he couldn't dance anymore. I outdanced him. How's that? And then observe family interactions. I was very consciously aware this weekend of how we progress as babies and infants. Everybody loves to spend time with us because we're fun and cute and cuddly and warm and laughing and free. And then as teenagers, we're a little awkward, and then you get the advice from all your older people. And then when you're in your 20s, you're like the center of attention now, or the 20s and 30s, you're the one having the babies that everybody wants to be around. And then you get to the 40s and you're the aunts and the uncles, where you're on the outside of the circle now. And then, 50s and 60s and so on, you're the old people that people complain about having to take care of. Or not complain, but you're the burden. I was very keenly aware of that this weekend. I have an older aunt, love her to death. She's the cutest little short woman. Seriously, this woman is so short. Hysterical. Just the funniest lady. Taking her to the restroom. She's got a cane. And in front of us is an older woman with a walker. And in front of her was a gentleman in a wheelchair. I was like, this is the fun, heading to the bathroom. And all of us caregivers were all like kind of nodding. Yeah, I know what you're going through. Yeah, got you there. It was really cute. But I really thought about how the progression of life can be quite cruel. We're used to all this attention, and then all of a sudden you're on the outside looking in and watching everyone else enjoy life. It was a nice thing to do because I really wanted to observe without attachment. I just observed, and where do I fit? I'm in the aunt and uncle stage now, where I'm not the life of the party anymore. I'm not the one with the funny stories anymore. I'm not the one with the... what one of the girls said, hashtag inside joke. I'm not that. That's not me. That's happening with them, and I'm on the outside smiling politely and, awkward conversations. Who are you and why are you here kind of thing. It's sweet. So what I took from that was I got to spend a great deal of time with my husband and my family and just enjoy each other. I actually feel like I robbed the wedding because I spent time with my husband so much, enjoying us and the love that we share. So that was a good way to use that opportunity of not being in the center, the circle, but still enjoying the event. So that was a change of thinking. And then, of course, I want to go back to the idea of the social connection, social media. My niece, actually, I'm picking on my niece and nephew-ish. Is he my nephew-in-law now, or my niece and nephew? I don't know. They requested no phones during the ceremony. No phones, no pictures. They wanted their own videography. And at first I was like, well, but I want to take a picture of the wedding and I want to have it. And then I thought, but, I want to honor. They wanted everyone's attention to be on them, not behind a screen. I totally get that. That is like a good, heartfelt connection, and I really appreciated that. But then after that, I didn't see this until I saw somebody post it on Facebook. They had a little thing, please share your memories with us, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I think it was. And that's what we were doing. Everyone was taking pictures then and posting. And it almost got to be like, who could post first? I got a picture of the bride and groom. I got a picture of this. I got a picture of them cutting the cake. It was very funny, Here we are. Post. Post. It was really cute. I actually got involved in it. My Uncle Vinny comes up. Oh, Uncle Vinny, let's take a picture. Like, not, hi, how are you? Let's take a picture. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got to that. So I actually put my phone down for a while and then just enjoyed. But so the social media, what's going on? Like the latest update. I know that my kids do this first thing in the morning, turn the phone on, flip, 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 flip. I don't even know how they know what's going on. My daughter can speed through that, just boom, boom, boom. I'm like, how do you even see what people are writing? But we're very invested in what people are doing, what's happening now. We don't want to feel left out. We want to feel connected. I think that's appropriate, but again, not to the extreme. So we want to be connected, but we're losing the connection to ourselves because we're so plugged in, we're not unplugged. And we're not plugged in to ourselves. We're plugged into what everyone else is doing. That's like being on the outside looking in. But what about me plugging into me? And the heart connections. Is it just a picture or a moment? Or do we have that experience? I was actually a little frustrated with my phone Friday night when I got there. There was a beautiful full moon low on the horizon. And there was clouds. So it was like coming up through the clouds and the clouds were cutting up. It was beautiful. And I was so frustrated with my camera because obviously it's dark and all of the cars on the road, they've got their taillights going on. Of course, there's traffic. And so all these other lights wouldn't let me focus on the moon. It just kept us this white blob in the sky. And I'm so frustrated because I want to share this beautiful moon with people. And then I thought, wait a second. My husband's sitting right with me. I can share this beautiful moon with him. I put the phone down and we talked about the beautiful moon and we watched it. We watched it rise up from the horizon. It went a little yellow at first and then it ended up being white and went through it was so gorgeous. And I'm actually glad I didn't get a photo because that's a memory that now I share with my husband. It doesn't need to be click, click. And I'm not saying don't take pictures. I'm an avid photographer, was before the phones came out. The Nikon cameras, the digital cameras, I'm there. I totally get it. But I wonder how much of my moments are spent behind a screen instead of actually with an individual. So that's a thing I was thinking of, is the connection to myself. Which takes me to my next topic, which this book is one of the reasons why I'm recommending it is because it's called Getting into the Gap. Meditation. It's really all about meditation. Now, he has a different type of meditation that I do, but any form of meditation is very beneficial. I've been meditating since 1987. I first learned how to meditate. Actually, I think I learned how to meditate way before that. As a little girl, I just didn't know it was meditation, but I often would have to be sit in a spot on the floor and not do anything. As the timeouts. My timeout was sitting in the living room floor facing the TV that wasn't on. And I would learn, I think I would call it meditation because I'd sit there, I'd calm my breathing, I'd close my eyes, I'd have conversations with people that weren't in the room, imaginary friends, if you want to call them, angels, guides, whatever. I think that was a form of meditation. I just didn't know it was meditating. So I would say I've had that respect for the inner space most of my life, where I knew that there was a place I could go to that nobody could get to me. I knew there was a place I could go to, you can't hurt me. You can't make me speak. You can't make me think a certain way. I just knew that there was that connection. I've always known that. But formally introduced to meditation in 1987 and have been practicing regularly, on and off, but practicing regularly almost daily. Not twice a day unless I'm in a specific meditation center, and then I would practice more than that. But for the most part, on my own, I practice at least once a day. Sometimes I'll do twice a day, but it's not a formal meditation. I'll just close my eyes and think of my breathing and a thought process or something. There's many different types of meditation. Now, the reason why I'm introducing meditation to you, because meditation is so beneficial for us. Meditation, for me, I feel like meditation is the one way that I can cope with tragedy. If I'm calm, I'll remain calm. When tragedy occurs, I will remain calm. I won't be wrapped up into it. I can remain calm and say what needs to be done. A car accident happens. What needs to be done? I can remain calm. If I get wrapped up into it, I may not be of service. I may not be helpful. I might actually cause more of an injury if I don't remain calm. By remaining calm, it also allows me to hold my center, to keep my peace. When I see tragedy on the news or we hear tragic events, that meditative state reminds me of the peace that's also available on the planet, of the love that's also shared on the planet. The news is filled with anger and upset and hatred, but there's also greatness and joy and beauty on the planet. It just doesn't seem to capture newsworthy attention. That's why I'm such a big fan of the Good News Network, the internet site that publishes. They've actually switched it now to it's daily. They publish at least 3 stories a day. Daily good news, things that are happening on the planet that are good. I like that idea. I like the idea that instead of me focusing on the negative, okay, there was a shooting, people died, I can send love and joy and stay centered and make sure that I'm peaceful. And that if somebody needs to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But I don't need to keep it present in my mind. The horror, the terror, what was it like to be there? I don't need to know any of that. Trauma, pain, understand. So I don't need to carry that. I don't need to have that reflecting in my thought process. Again, not to say it didn't happen, pretend, put my head in the sand. No, I'm aware of it. It happened, but stay centered. I was thinking of one of my gratitudes about 2 months ago. I stumbled upon the thought of how grateful I am for all of the ages of the past, the teachers of the ages of the past. Not just spiritual leaders that I gravitate towards, but any teacher that had the strength to say, this is what I believe, and proceed forward. Anybody who said, what we're doing is wrong, we need to stop. Anybody had the courage and conviction to move forward into unknown territory. I'm very grateful for that, because those people paved the path. Christopher Columbus crossed the ocean to get here because he viewed a greater world. Or anything. Eli Whitney invents the cotton gin because there's other things that we can do. Here's a inventor who says we've got to be able to do other stuff. I remember early on, I saw the TV, it was a movie, black and white movie called Silk Stockings. And it never occurred to me that women wore wool stockings until silk was invented or used to create silk stockings. And the character, and I don't remember it, I think it was Audrey Hepburn, but I'm not quite sure. It was a very beautiful actress. And she was ostracized and like attacked because she had silk stockings on instead of the traditional wool stockings. Something as simple as that made a difference. So they may not be teachers, but these are people that were out willing to stand on the front line and say, let's do something different. But mostly, I'm grateful for the teachers that introduced personal growth, or teachers that have always worked on personal growth. Every religion was based on that. Of course, you know, Buddha, Gandhi, Jesus, Muhammad, and then we could throw in Martin Luther King and Mother Teresa. We could even add Deepak Chopra, who's the gentleman that I always say his name, in Eckhart Tolle, and Oprah. You could even add her in there. She's quite spiritual as well. Like everyone, we could look at everyone as a teacher and be grateful for them. So when I changed my thought process to the idea of, as I said, whoops, getting into the gap. I'm not going to pick that up because I'm going to disappear from you. But getting into the gap, I'm going to use my toes. Thank you. Okay, you can get it. Thank you. When I use the process of getting into the gap, mysterious hand, thank you very much. When I get into the gap, the concept is stepping outside of what's happening by connecting to the present moment. So a little odd thought process, but if this is what's happening, but then I could step into the gap, the breath. I remember when I was first taught about a breathing meditation, there's a moment between the inhale and the exhale, and between the exhale and the inhale where there's no breath happening. It's that still. Right before, it's a moment, very brief, where the inhale stops before the exhale begins. It's that moment. That's what I was taught to search for when I practice breathing exercises, to practice for that moment. Conscious breathing is the way it was introduced to me. And the same thing on the exhale. There's that moment when you're done exhaling, right before you start inhaling, that moment. That's to seek. So to keep my mind on the thought of exhaling and then reach that moment, and then the inhale, and then reach that moment, so on and so forth. That's the gap, where it appears nothing's happening, but everything's happening. In that moment, the oxygen is transitioning from carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is transitioning back, sending, all of that happens in that little moment, split second, just like that, just that moment. So that's what I was taught how to do. And then when I encountered this book, I thought, oh my gosh, that's hysterical. It's the gap. The same thing with the heart. It's pumping the blood, and the blood's coming in and out very fast. Our thoughts, they're in the synapses. There's that spark between, excuse me, my biology has lost me, but the nerve endings, there's a specific call, but there's an actual electrical pulse sent from one to the other. But there's a moment where there's a gap where nothing occurs. It doesn't mean there's nothing there. It could be nothing and everything. But those moments, those gaps, that's where I find my greatness. Those moments, those gaps, that's where I feel the most connected. And that's why meditation is very helpful. When I meditate, my experience is when I'm done meditating, I'm far more peaceful than I was when I started. Even if it's just walking to the restroom or sitting down in the restroom and taking a moment, closing my eyes and breathing. And there I have it. There's my quick little meditation. But in those moments of meditating, it brings me back to center. It brings me back to focus. It brings me back to peace, joy, compassion, gratitude, the things that I'm searching for in my day. Because in my day, my mind is interrupted constantly. Phone calls, emails, the news, Facebooking, social media, conversations, other drivers on the road, people in the grocery store. We're constantly bombarded and interrupted. So in that meditative state, I actually get to disconnect and reconnect. And by doing the disconnect and reconnect, this allows me to find a sense of stability. Being stable, what exactly does that mean? So stability. I think about balance when I think about stability. When I lost my hearing, I lost my equilibrium and I had no balance. I stumbled and I couldn't, no matter how I tried, I could not stand and walk. I was leaning to the right and kept falling, easily falling. It still happens today. I've gotten accustomed to it now. And if I'm tired or if I turn too fast, I will fall to the right. I'm very aware of that. So that's when I think about stability. It requires work. I've connected that to my hearing and my equilibrium, where it requires work for me to stay focused. It requires work for me to stay balanced. I remember somebody made a comment about me because I stand in the classroom sometimes and I lift my right leg and hook it over my knee like a pelican, and I kind of stand there. And it's not like I'm doing, it actually is very comfortable for my hips, but it really is a way for me to practice being stable. Like I run my thoughts or energy through my leg and I feel myself strong. Like that's a way for me to feel stronger. I'm standing with strength. And then it just becomes a very comfortable posture for me, which I know it's strange because I have struggled with equilibrium. I can't do it with my right leg though. I can only do it with my left. If I do it with my right leg, I stumble and move around and I need to hang on to something without effort. If I tried to focus on effort, I'm sure I could, but then I'll forget what I'm speaking about. Now, that's just an example of being able to use something to my advantage. So stability, I search for stability in the gap, in those moments where I can bring myself connected to me. Those moments where time does not exist, where space doesn't even exist. It's the moment where I'm existing without, but with everything. And if you haven't had the experience, it's a little difficult to describe of what it's like to be in that space. When I think about this, and I think about that connection, that really develops the connection with me. A lot of people use the idea of connecting with your higher self or your higher power or God or your guides, the divinity, whatever word you choose, doesn't matter. As long as you feel that connection, that centering. I remember early on when I was working with George and we were talking about meditation, and he would say, center yourself. And it never occurred to me that centering myself meant to go inside of me. Centering myself, I've always had this experience of closing my eyes and I feel myself much taller. Like I feel like I'm 8 feet when I center myself. And the way I pictured in my head was me, this little body, is in the center of this 8-foot bubble, I guess is what you would call it. That's what I called centering myself. And George just kind of looked at me with a very skewed look on his face. And he said, but you're not 8 feet. And I'm like, I know, but that's the way I've centered myself. I saw myself inside of something much larger. but I couldn't fully explain to him what I felt. It was like I felt myself extending out. Like if I closed my eyes, I wasn't trapped in a 5'2" body. I really felt like 8 foot big. I felt big. So to me, it made sense that was centering myself. And that's where we laughed, because he was like, you go travel from the head down to the heart and go to your solar plexus, and that's you take that traveling road, and then you get to the center of yourself. I'm like, but that's not the center of myself. We had some, God bless that man, he had such tolerance for me. So the reason why I bring that up is because I want you to know there is no right or wrong way to do it. Center yourself any way that you feel centered. Some people feel centered lying down. Some people feel centered going for a walk. Or some people feel centered when they're holding a baby, or they're holding their dog, when they're around people they love, or their animals they love, when they're in a space. I have a meditation room I absolutely love. I walk in there and that's all, I'm centered. Just walk in the room, done. No conscious effort there. Well, there was effort building it, but whatever works for you is what I would recommend. The type of meditations, I've done a number of different types of meditations. I've been taught on delivery of different types of meditations. I gravitate to ones that I like. I adjust minds, but I don't do the same one every day. I change it up. Even though I have a routine that I have done for years and years and years, I've changed it up a little bit because I understand we can outgrow things. And I don't want to get bored with what I do. I want to be able to continue on finding a meditative state. That's why one of the reasons why I like to listen to Oprah and Deepak, because it's a different way of being. He does the transcendental meditations, or close to it, where you take a mantra and you just repeat the mantra over and over again. That's been a good thing for me to do. And then, of course, I've done the Vipassana meditation, where it's an entire guidelines or process. You start here, work your way down, and so on and so forth. But there is no right meditation and there is no wrong meditation. To me, I think the best thing to do, or the one thing that's missing from our schools, is meditation. I know I mentioned this about a year ago. We talked about how there's a school in New York that actually started introducing meditation into the classrooms. I know I have a friend of mine who's a teacher out here, and she just got approved to have permission for the kids to sit in a circle and talk about their day. How are they feeling? Is it good or bad? And then practice breathing. Like, she had to get permission to be able to teach someone how to practice breathing. But it calms the kids down. And there's been great success in New York in this one school, and it has passed me. I think it's in Pennsylvania too. But the idea that they're teaching the kids, instead of fighting, calm down, close your eyes, breathe. Where's the anger coming from? Let it go, release it, a balloon, whatever it is that works for them. I think that's great if we could teach our kids how to meditate. Teach them at an early age how to get connected. Maybe we wouldn't get to a place where we end up with people who do shooting. Maybe we would get to a place where somebody doesn't feel like they have to get in a car and drive people over. Like, if we introduced meditation at an early age, and I know I'm putting a plea, I have a very attached agenda here. If I were to introduce people to this at an early age, how different would our world be? How different would society be? How would we interact? New Age movement came and went, but it wasn't the first time people tried to make the world a better place. Socrates strove to make the world a better place. Aristotle, Plato, all of these people strove to make a better place. Jesus walked the planet, not for himself, but to make a better place. Muhammad, to make the world a better place. Akhenaten, the first Egyptian pharaoh who believes in monotheism, make the world a better place. An Egyptian pharaoh who says, the sun is setting and rising on my enemies as much as I am, as much as my country and my enemies. Why would God want me to hate somebody that he's showing love to? I mean, that's a beautiful concept. So this has been around since humanity has been around. Sometimes I sit and scratch my head and wonder, how long is it going to be before we actually get it? I mean, how many teachers do we need? How many religions? How many philosophies until we finally go, oh, got it? I remember I did have this conversation one time with a teacher of mine, and he said to me, what if you were to consider that planet Earth was a school and we're not supposed to get it? That kind of deflated my balloon, because I was like, I want to get it. No, what do you mean? I'm never going to get it? But I think maybe that is correct. Maybe there are other places to go to for beyond this planet. And maybe the planet Earth is a school for me to help define myself and refine myself and practice. So that was my introduction for tonight. The concept of when tragedy occurs, how do I respond? When tragedy occurs, how do I respond? Do I choose joy? Do I find empathy? Do I find a way to make a contribution and continue to carry the light, I guess, or love or compassion? Or do I go to the emotional upset and the argument and get involved in the criticism and the details? I think my husband and I were talking about this. I think it would be really nice if one day the news stopped glorifying it. It's an event, stop it. Don't put the person's face on. Don't let anybody know who it is. Just focus on the survivors and the dead, the family. Focus on that. Focus on the heroes. Focus on the ones who came to save the day, as opposed to the ones that are going out and causing it. I think that would make a difference if it wasn't so sensationalized. I think it would make a difference. If being the hero was a sensational, maybe that would be what the attention would be drawn on. So, of course, these are just my own thoughts. I'm not in a position where I could make the law. I just think one day it would be nice if the news wasn't filled with anger and upset and tragedy, if the news actually was filled with what somebody did good for a living. I find it, not for a living, but an event that somebody did. I find it odd that when it's a slow news day, that's when we get the nice fluff pieces. When it's a slow news day, why does it have to be slow for us to focus on the positive? I find that intriguing. Anyway, thank you for joining me this evening. I truly appreciate it. I will keep you updated on the dates that are going to come up. And of course, we have a Monday night workshop. We have a Wednesday workshop, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Now with this one, I've been toying with the idea. I didn't do last month's Wednesday workshop. I had a migraine on that one and honestly forgot. So I was thinking about the idea of switching up the Wednesday workshops to like a 15-minute, like a TED Talks, kind of shortened little video with a specific topic. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to end up doing on the Wednesday. So I don't have a topic just yet. And my Thanksgiving plans may be changing. I might be someplace on Wednesday. So we might be doing a Wednesday workshop from my kitchen while we're getting food ready. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here and for joining me on this evening. I will see you in a month. Bye now.